of our own personal stock? If not, well then, Jobs, you've even caught the great one offside, as have LeBron James, Logan Paul, Justin Bieber, Steve Aoki, Kevin Durant. The list goes on, not to mention every hedge fund ever.
We bought a lot more Apple after year end. One of the fellows in the office has about 10 million shares, and I have for Berkshire's account about 123 million. So he got about 133 million.
Is the owner of Heritage Auctions not allowed to be a collector himself? Is the owner of Christie's Auctions allowed to collect modern art? Should Elon Musk be allowed to drive a Tesla? Should Carl Jobs be allowed to participate in speed runs if his participation may increase demand for his videos?
This person apparently watched my video and walked away thinking that my point was that advertising your own product is wrong. Nowhere in my video did I make this point, and I feel my IQ lowering by the second by just having to even clarify this. You can't advertise your own product, you just can't lie when you do it. It's very simple. The FTC has rules and regulations about how you can and can't advertise your own products, and Wata Games broke those rules. But even if those rules didn't exist, lying is just unethical in general. Notice how throughout this video, he will use extremely dumbed down language and adolescent concepts like advertising your own product isn't wrong and video game collecting isn't a scam, but fails to bring up or address the specific issues that I brought up, or the specific regulations that Wata Games allegedly broke. To make this a bit clearer, let's take a look at a snippet from the class action lawsuit filed against Wata Games. It highlights very specific wrongdoings, and we can read through a few of them. The public statements of Halperin disclosing the sale of the Super Mario Bros. Game and sale price on the Heritage Auction website without disclosing his relationship to Wata. Khan's public comments on Heritage Auctions without disclosing Halperin's relationship to Wata. The appearance of Lecce and Khan on History Channel's Pawn Stars show and the non-disclosure of an existing relationship between the two. Wata's directors and employees selling games without disclosing their relationship to the company after Khan indicated such a practice was not permitted. And it goes on and on. And aside from the specific laws they cite in this lawsuit, I can point you to the exact FTC regulations that were broken. But of course, none of these will be addressed. Instead, he will just state inane concepts like advertising is okay. This is very high-level stuff.
And sorry to break it to you, but you know Pawn Stars is a fake show, right? It's entertainment designed to showcase various collectibles, and they bring in industry experts to give a little bit of history and background on the items. These aren't real negotiations.
Pawn Stars is not a fake show. This isn't fiction, it's reality TV. It's partially scripted and they know the outcome when they film it, but sales do actually happen. The experts that come on are actually experts, and they are giving real expert opinions. There is no expectation from the public that the experts aren't real, or what they are saying isn't an expert opinion.
It's like being asked to go on the Jay Leno show if you're in the collectibles world. You don't turn down that invitation. It's great publicity for your company.
Dennis Khan absolutely can do exactly what he did. It wasn't what he did that was the problem. It's what he didn't do. What he should have done is inform the viewers that the owners of the cart he was appraising were part owners of the same grading company that graded it. Basically, the owners of the cart were Dennis Khan's bosses and gave his company money. There is a gigantic conflict of interest here, and it needed to be disclosed. But of course, that wouldn't happen, because as soon as Dennis Khan told the truth, the public would find the entire segment ridiculous, because it was.
And for anyone that thinks that Dennis did something evil in his segment,
Pawn Stars even had Dennis Khan come on, and again he pumped up the value.
go rewatch it with your own eyes. He didn't offer a single opinion of value. Is he not allowed to discuss the history of video games? To be honest, with all the hype, I was surprised not to find any wrongdoing in this clip.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Come again?
Go rewatch it with your own eyes. He didn't offer a single opinion of value.
Okay, well, I've seen this segment many times, and he definitely did give an opinion of value, but let's double check.
When Millicent needs a friend, she's got Chris Pappas right where she wants him, in her pocket.
Petconomics Savings Lesson 33. With Petco, you can get Great Dane-size benefits for Chihuahua-size prices. Care for your pet all in one place and get great savings with Vital Care by Petco. Petco, healthier pet, healthier budget.
So if this went into an auction today, your estimate would be? It's really hard to tell. It hasn't sold on the open market. I know of firm offers that have been turned down at $300,000. Goes up from there. There's no ceiling.
So he first implies that $300,000 was not enough because it was turned down. But then he specifically says it goes up from there. He didn't say it could go up, it could go down. Who really knows? He said it goes up from there and there is no ceiling. It could be worth $1 million, maybe even $1 billion, but certainly more than $300,000. And remember, just a couple of months earlier, this cart was bought for only $100,000. Now I'm totally confused because when I watched the clip, Dennis Kahn does give an opinion of value, but this guy said he didn't. I just don't know what to believe. Do I trust my own eyes and ears, or do I believe this person who keeps lying in his video? I don't even know what's real anymore.
And what's with this toxic mob mentality going on in America right now? We used to champion our heroes. Young guys like Dennis that put it all on the line to pursue their lifelong passion. To start a company at age 25 that gets bought out by hedge fund billionaire Steve Cohen within 3 years? That's amazing. That's the American dream.
Well, I'm not American, and neither is the majority of the world, so appealing to the American dream doesn't really have any effect on me. All it really does is remind me of this.
Is it for what? Arresting me for what? I'm not allowed to stand up for myself? I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
In all seriousness, starting up a business does not give you a free ticket to lie and deceive people.
And how does Jobs get off claiming that
I haven't heard of a single legitimate collector buying any of these expensive games. Out of everything in my video, this is the one thing that I completely regret saying, and it's 100% wrong. Now, don't get me twisted, the speculative bubble was still caused by speculation, and I still believe that most high-value purchases are fueled by profit, but just because there is a speculative bubble, that doesn't mean that everyone in the market is a speculator. There are collectors that have been collecting sealed video games for many years, and obviously, if they still want to collect, they are forced into buying these games, even at such insane prices. Since I made my original video, I've met and formed relationships with some really nice graded collectors, and it's a huge shame that graded collecting in general got tarnished by the actions of a small group of individuals. I was actually shocked at how nice some of the collectors were, and I want to give a huge shout out and some appreciation to a few of them that have helped me a lot. The first is Get the Greg Games, who runs a YouTube channel talking about the graded video game market. He is a super nice guy and has an awesome community. I definitely think you should give his channel a follow. And I also want to thank Minus World and Dan, who have been extremely helpful to me when it comes to learning about and buying games. I really want to stress that most of the collectors I've spoken to have been pretty cool people, and I don't want you to have the idea that every sealed collector is bad just because of Roger Games, Heritage Auctions, and the speculators that are abusing the hobby.
And he went as far to accuse Eric Nierman, a guy that's dedicated thousands of hours of his free time to studying this hobby, of not being a real collector. Very few people are this dedicated to a hobby. That's the definition of a collector. Jobs has no idea what he's talking about.
Eric Nierman literally admitted that he didn't even know the retro video game market existed and got into it to make money. He borrowed $1 million from his rich friends and created a company with the specific intention of profiting from rising video game prices. I'm not even sure why you would argue this point when he explicitly explained his intentions.
Of course, that same week I discover on Heritage Auctions vintage video games, which I never even knew existed. And then when it played through in my head, I'm like, oh my God, this is like so much better than cards for me. Wow, if this even catches up a quarter of to where cards have gone, you know, we could see 100 extra cards just at the beginning, you know, because it was so new. As a collectible investment, this was like everything that I saw on the Mike Trout card to the max on steroids. And for me, it was a time machine. It was literally like, if you could I always said to myself, I would look at like Nat Turner's collection of cards on Instagram at that time, and I was like, wow, if only I could go back 10 years and just like hang out with him and just buy everything he was buying. And, you know, it's that time machine that everyone has. You guys had with NFTs. It's always that if I could go back, I could be a billionaire, right? So I said, this is my moment that I'm going to go back in time, but it's going to be today, and I'm just going to go for it. But I had no money. So it was just a crazy idea, and I thought it was a genius idea, but I even if I had the $75,000, I wouldn't have made a dent in the market, and I just spent it on the card, so that was kind of. So I was kind of like down about it, but thank God my brother-in-law was in town for Passover time, and I was talking to him about it. And he's like, "That sounds insane, but you seem like really confident about it." He goes, "What I do when I have an insane idea and I'm really confident, I start a hedge fund." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Just speak to intelligent business people, pitch them your idea like you're pitching anything else, and if they believe in it, maybe they'll fund you and you could do your thing." And I'm like, "That's a genius idea." One thing that was important to me also, I wasn't dumb. I knew this was a very speculative, crazy idea. It wasn't responsible at the time, per se, what most people were investing in. But sometimes those are the ones that hit the jackpot.
You have people that have devoted their entire lives to collecting and have been collecting for decades, but when Eric and his rich friends pull together a ton of money and buy every expensive game they can find, this instantly makes him one of the most avid collectors in the world. It's a joke. Honestly, I hate focusing on Eric, and I wouldn't have brought him up again if this video hadn't made such an insane argument. Eric was merely an example of how these high-end speculators use money and the media in order to abuse a market for their own gain.
Jobs has no idea what he's talking about. Is Pat Contry Job's only definition of a collector? The same guy that says that true collectors should rip open their one-of-a-kind sealed games because games are meant to be played? Is that really a collector?
I'm going to need a source on this claim that Pat said people should rip open their sealed games. Pat owns sealed games himself and hasn't ripped them open, so I wouldn't believe such a claim without evidence. And given that you're about to show clips of Pat, why wouldn't you show the clip where he says this? My definition of a collector is someone who buys a game for the sake of owning it, and without the intention of selling it later. It's someone who buys a game because they want to keep it, not because they want to profit from its sale once the value has gone up.
Does the same guy rip the top off of King Tut's sarcophagus because beds are meant to be laid in? Does the same guy wear Michael Jordan's rookie jersey to a family barbecue because clothing is meant to be worn?
Oh great, it's another straw man. Next.
And here's something interesting. Pat Contry makes his collecting philosophy very clear here.
They don't care about the first Mario 3 bucks or the first, you know what I mean? They don't care because they are video game collectors. They are playing the games. Well, I'm not paying 60, 75 bucks for the first Prince of Mario Bros. Cart. I'm fine with the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth print runs because I just want to play what to me is one of the best platforms ever created. I don't give a shit that this came out 6 months before this other version. I don't care. I just want to play the game.
But in the next breath,
I can't even drop the money I wanted to drop on an Amazing Fantasy 15 grade because the price keeps going up 20% each year.
if variants don't matter because comic books are meant to be read, why would you spend $20,000 on an original when you could buy this copy for 20 bucks? It reads the same, and comic books are meant to be read, right, Pat?
This is truly beautiful. The first clip seems a bit strange because Pat is saying they, so it doesn't seem like he is talking about himself.
They don't care about the first Mario 3 bucks or the first, you know what I mean? They don't care because they are video game collectors. They are playing the games.
But in the second clip, he definitely says, I don't care, I just want to play the game.
Because I just want to play what to me is one of the best platforms ever created. I don't give a shit that this came out 6 months before this other version. I don't care. I just want to play the game.
But sometimes, not everything is as it seems. Whenever you see clips like this online from people trying to discredit someone, you should always check the source before believing it. So let's take a look at this quote and check out the original context.
Because if a video game vendor has a Super Mario Bros. 3 cart, and it is the first print of it, and puts the brothers to the left, and then tries to sell it for 3 or 4 times the value, tries to sell it for 60 bucks, most of the people that see that cart are going to be like, well, I'm not paying 60, 75 bucks for the first print Super Mario Bros. Cart. I'm fine with the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth print runs. Because I just want to play what to me is one of the best platforms ever created. I don't give a shit that this came out 6 months before this other version. I don't care. I just want to play the game.
So the clipped quote was this, but the actual full quote was this. He wasn't sharing his philosophy at all. He was just expressing what he thinks the opinion of most other people is, which is that they don't care about the variants, they just want to play games, which I also think is true. He wasn't even talking about collectors, he was talking about the general public.
Because it's a hard thing, and just because you may know a couple little details doesn't mean you know everything, and it doesn't mean what you think is important means that it's important to these video game sellers, because they're not making money off of the Super Mario Brothers 3 gallery. That's not the way they're making a living. They're not making money off of some of these box variants, because the people that they sell to aren't you. They are buying just carts by and large, so they don't give a shit because they're actually playing the games. A lot of the people they sell to, even some of the collectors that are buying the cards or complete in box, they are playing the games, so they don't give a shit about what is the first box for Super Mario Brothers. They don't care about the first Mario 3 box or the first, you know what I mean? They don't care because they are video game collectors. They are playing the games.
This guy painstakingly edited the clip of Pat mid-sentence in order to lie and misrepresent what he said. People who do this are absolutely disgusting. I've had the same thing done to me, and it's why I really don't trust things like this without going to the source.
I can't even drop the money I wanted to drop on an Amazing Fantasy 15 grade because the price keeps going up 20% each year.
If variants don't matter because comic books are meant to be read, why would you spend $20,000 on an original when you could buy this copy for $20? It reads the same, and comic books are meant to be read, right, Pat?
Amazing. So first he edits what Pat says to lie and misrepresent him, then he takes that fake argument that he made up himself and smugly argues against it like it's a slam dunk.
And with Pat being Job's main source of information for this video, I like how he just blatantly ignored anything positive that Pat had to say about Wada.
Wait, what? This guy just makes up whatever he wants and asserts it confidently as fact. It's honestly impressive. Pat was not my main source for the video, and it boggles the mind how much BS this guy is able to spin in such a short amount of time. My sources were the press releases, SEC filings, news articles, lawsuits, interviews, and TV appearances. The sources are all in the video. I spent a month investigating the individuals involved, learning their connections and history. How can you watch that video that has so many sources and claim that my source was Pat, when he was never cited as a source a single time?
I like how he just blatantly ignored anything positive that Pat had to say about Wada.
Wada Games, they marketed themselves better, closer to what CGC was than what VGA. VGA dropped the ball. The Video Game Authority, those guys dropped the ball. They could have been this, but they weren't. Plus, well, we talked about how Wada was doing a better job because they had guys that, from the video game collecting scene, that knew about sealed games to authenticate. They were really more of an authority than VGA, and that's why we liked Wada.
But that doesn't work for Job's narrative, so instead he ran with this.
In fact, the Video Game Authority, aka VGA, has been grading games since 2008. But the introduction of VGA didn't cause a bubble like the introduction of What A Games did. And the reason is simple. VGA didn't manipulate the market. Why would Heritage Auctions, a prestigious auction house, agree to sell games from a company that hadn't graded a single game? Why would they trust a business that hadn't even done any business to begin with, when there was already an existing grading company that had been grading games for 10 years?
Again, this isn't journalism. Pat knows the truth. Wada is a great company and do offer a great service.
These arguments make no logical sense. He first suggests that it doesn't matter if Wada and Heritage lies to the public or does anything illegal because the product they made was better than VGA. And even though my video was about their unethical business practices, I should have also praised them for some reason. My video was about fraud and deception, not my opinion on Wada's product. If you follow this logic, it means that every time a journalist reports on a murderer, they also have to list out all the nice things about the murderer too. Maybe the murderer helped an old lady across the street one time, and that has to be mentioned because otherwise it's just not journalism.
But the video dropped, and with all the negative talk and headlines it created, momentum shifted and the market pulled back. Of course it did. With the recent rush of new buyers, they didn't have time to properly ground themselves within this hobby. When they read headlines of fraud, they don't know what's going on. Naturally, they'll put their buying on hold.
Don't buy.
This video is the true manipulator.
Okay, now I'm confused again. Earlier in the video, he said this.
Apparently all us collectors are nothing but puppets on a string. His thesis centers around sealed video game collectors and how apparently our minds were being manipulated by the powers that be.
So on one hand, collectors aren't puppets, but my video also somehow had a massive impact on collectors and caused the market to nosedive. And when
I feel overwhelmed by the rising costs of gas and groceries. And that's why I won't vote for Maggie Hassan. Hassan supported Joe Biden's liberal spending agenda and sent inflation through the roof. Maggie Hassan let us down.
When Jobst finally spoke with some real collectors only after the video dropped, he learned some real truth.
Since you've made the video, how much has your perspective changed?
Yeah, as far as the collecting stuff goes, my perspective has changed a lot. My impression of it was full speculation, but now you've got every collectible is ballooning.
Yeah.
And even I wouldn't be able to predict what is or isn't normal, what things should or shouldn't be. You know, speaking with you guys, speaking with other collectors, definitely changed my perspective as far as that goes. But definitely the collecting side was, yeah, I believe that I was quite wrong. I don't know. I was probably quite wrong about the collecting stuff. Yeah, I have to freely admit that. I'm not saying even these recent big sales are there anything like shady going on with them. And when it came to the actual collecting side of it, I didn't do much research. I didn't even consider the possibility that I was like way off there. Oh, nice. Some more out of context clips. And once again, he completely misrepresents what we were talking about. Though I don't really need to grab the entire source this time, as even in the clips he showed, it was clear I was talking about collecting. I even used the word collecting, which I would never do if I was talking about speculation. I wasn't talking about the illegal business practices of Wata and Heritage, I was talking about something else. And in that same video, I specifically clarified that. I feel like my perspective is too biased. I mean, I have my opinions about the ethics side of it, the behaviors, which hasn't really changed through anything that I've really learned. But the percentage of speculation and all that kind of stuff is definitely changing.